A dog's nose knows things a human heart refuses to see. Maya always thought her husband, David, was a perfect man. Their home was full of warm sunlight and happy laughter. They had a beautiful golden retriever named Bailey. But tonight, the air inside their quiet house felt very wrong. David came home very late from work. He opened the front door and smiled his usual, handsome smile. Maya felt completely happy. She walked forward to give her husband a big, loving hug. Suddenly, a large, golden body stepped right between them. It was Bailey. Bailey did not wag his tail. He did not ask for a pet. He planted his heavy feet firmly on the wooden floor. He pushed his soft back against Maya's legs, forcing her to step backward. Then, the friendly dog did something completely impossible. He showed his teeth. A low, dark growl came from deep inside Bailey's throat. He was staring directly at David. Maya was shocked. Bailey loved David. He had never growled at anyone in his entire life. David laughed nervously and tried to step around the dog. But Bailey moved quickly, blocking him again. "What is wrong with this crazy dog?" David asked, his voice sounding slightly annoyed. Maya knelt down and hugged Bailey's neck to calm him. As she got closer to David, she smelled something strange. It was a sweet, expensive women's perfume on his jacket. Her heart skipped a fast beat. Maya felt a sharp pain of jealousy. Was David seeing another woman? She held the edge of his jacket and let Bailey smell it. She expected the dog to hate the strange perfume. But Bailey completely ignored the sweet smell on the collar. He did not care about the perfume at all. Instead, Bailey pushed his wet nose hard under David's arm. The dog barked loudly and angrily at the dark sweat on David's shirt. Maya froze. She remembered a documentary she once watched. Dogs do not understand human jealousy, but they can perfectly smell human fear. Bailey was smelling a massive spike of adrenaline and cortisol. These are the strong chemicals of extreme stress and dark lies. The dog was not jealous of a strange woman. He was using his wild instinct to protect his pack. He was protecting Maya from a very dangerous liar. David looked at the dog with cold, angry eyes. He pulled his jacket away quickly. "I am going to take a shower," he said without looking at Maya. He walked quickly up the stairs. Maya stayed on the floor, holding her brave dog. She knew her perfect life was a lie. The next morning, the house felt very quiet and cold. David tried to act perfectly normal. He drank his hot coffee and smiled warmly at Maya. "My car engine is broken," he said smoothly. "I will have to take the city bus to work today. Do not worry about me." David put on his coat and picked up the dog leash. "Come on, Bailey," he called out in a friendly voice. "Let's go for a quick morning walk." He wanted to show Maya that everything was fine between him and the dog. But Bailey did not move a single inch. The large golden retriever sat heavily on the living room rug. David pulled the red leash, but Bailey locked his legs. It was a smart dog trick called planting. Bailey made his body feel as heavy as a stone. He absolutely refused to step outside with the lying man. David's face turned slightly red with anger. He dropped the leash on the floor. "Fine. The stupid dog can stay inside," he muttered. He kissed Maya's cheek quickly and walked out the front door to catch his bus. Maya watched him leave, her mind full of dark questions. 10 minutes later, Maya picked up the red leash. "Okay, buddy, let's go," she said softly. Bailey jumped up immediately, his tail wagging fast. He was perfectly happy to walk with her. But as soon as they stepped outside, Bailey did not go to the regular park. The dog pulled the leash very hard. He put his nose close to the ground, tracking a fresh, invisible path. He pulled Maya down a narrow street, away from the bus stop. Maya had to jog to keep up with his sudden, strong energy. She trusted his sharp nose completely. Bailey led her to an old, dirty parking lot hidden behind a local gas station. There were only a few cars parked there. Bailey walked straight toward a dark blue sedan and sat down right next to the driver's door. He looked up at Maya and waited quietly. Maya stopped breathing. It was David's car. The car that was supposed to be completely broken. She walked closer and touched the metal hood. It was still very warm. David had just driven it here and parked it secretly. He never took the city bus at all. Why would her husband hide his perfectly good car here? Where was he really going today? Maya looked at Bailey. The dog just panted happily, proud of his good detective work. The sweet perfume from last night was only the beginning. A much darker secret was hiding in the shadows. Maya spent the whole day feeling sick with worry. When David finally came home that evening, he looked very relaxed. He carried a heavy, black leather briefcase in his hand. Maya tried to hide her nervous feelings. She served him a hot dinner and sat across the wooden table. "How was work today, honey?" Maya asked, keeping her voice soft and sweet. "Did you fix the car?" David smiled perfectly. He looked directly into her eyes without blinking. "Work was boring," he said calmly. "And the mechanic says the car needs 3 more days. Taking the bus is terrible." His voice was smooth and confident. He did not look nervous at all. He ate his food casually. Maya almost believed him. She almost thought the warm car at the gas station was just a crazy mistake. But Bailey knew the ugly truth hiding behind that handsome smile. Bailey began to act very strangely. The dog started walking in tight circles around the kitchen table. This behavior is called pacing. Dogs do this when they are extremely stressed. Bailey whined softly, looking at David with wide, worried eyes. The dog's nose was working hard to read the air. David's face looked perfectly calm, but his body was betraying him. His heart was beating incredibly fast. His sweat glands were releasing huge amounts of adrenaline. He was lying straight to his wife's face, and it took intense, hidden energy to do it. Bailey smelled that invisible, toxic energy. The smell of David's dark lies was overwhelming to the dog. It smelled like danger and a hidden predator. Bailey could not stand it anymore. He stopped pacing and stared at the black leather briefcase resting on the floor next to David's chair. The dark smell was strongest right there. Without any warning, Bailey leaped forward. He grabbed the thick leather handle of the briefcase with his strong teeth. He pulled it violently away from David's chair. The sudden movement surprised David completely. He shouted loudly and tried to grab the bag, dropping his fork on the floor. Bailey dragged the heavy briefcase across the kitchen floor, growling aggressively at the black leather. He shook his head back and forth, trying to tear it open. He acted like the bag was a poisonous snake. Maya stood up in shock. The invisible wall of lies was starting to crack. "Bad dog. Let go of that right now." David screamed furiously. He kicked his chair back and rushed toward Bailey. His handsome face was suddenly twisted with pure panic and ugly rage. Maya realized instantly that the bag contained something much worse than simple work papers. The truth was inside. David kicked Bailey hard in the ribs. The dog yelped in pain and dropped the black bag. Maya screamed and ran to protect her dog. David quickly picked up the torn briefcase, his chest breathing heavily. He looked at Maya with wild, angry eyes that she did not recognize at all. "Keep this stupid animal away from my important work," David shouted. He turned around and walked quickly into his private office. He slammed the heavy wooden door shut. Maya heard the sharp click of the metal lock. She sat on the kitchen floor, gently rubbing Bailey's sore side. Maya knew she had to see what was inside that bag. But David never left his office unlocked anymore. That night, she pretended to sleep deeply in their bedroom. David finally came to bed around midnight. Soon, the room was filled with the sound of his slow, heavy snoring. Maya carefully slipped out of bed. She walked silently down the dark hallway. Bailey was waiting for her in the shadows. The smart dog knew exactly what they needed to do. David had taught Bailey a funny party trick years ago, how to open doors with his mouth and paws. They reached the office door. Maya pointed at the metal handle. Bailey stood up on his back legs. He bit the curved handle softly and pushed his heavy body against the wood. With a quiet click, the door opened. The dog remembered the trick perfectly. They sneaked inside quietly. The black briefcase was sitting on the desk. Bailey had torn the leather lock earlier, so it was not closed tightly. Maya turned on a small flashlight. Her hands were shaking violently. She reached inside the dark bag and pulled out a thick stack of official legal papers. She expected to find romantic letters from another woman or secret hotel receipts. But these were not love letters. The top page had a bold, black title, Power of Attorney for Property Sale. Maya felt the cold air freeze in her lungs. She quickly read the complicated legal words. The document gave David full legal permission to sell their beautiful house without her being present. At the very bottom of the page, there was a signature. It was Maya's name, perfectly written in blue ink. But Maya had never signed this paper. Her husband had carefully forged her signature. David was not just having a secret affair. He was planning to sell the home they built together, steal all the money, and leave her with absolutely nothing. The sweet perfume was just a small distraction. Bailey had smelled the cold, calculated heart of a true criminal. Maya sat in the dark office, unable to breathe. She took a quick picture of the forged document with her phone. Then, she carefully put the papers back exactly how she found them. She sneaked back to her bed, her heart breaking into a million tiny, sharp pieces. The next morning, David left for work early. He took the black briefcase with him, completely unaware of the midnight discovery. As soon as the front door closed, Maya grabbed her phone. She looked at the picture she took. There was a real estate agency's name printed at the top. Maya called the agency directly. She pretended to be checking the status of her own home sale. The friendly agent on the phone was very helpful. "Yes, Mrs. Maya," the agent said happily. "The fast cash transaction is moving perfectly. The buyer has already signed all the final papers." Maya's blood ran cold. "When will the money be transferred?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The agent replied quickly, "The full amount will go into your husband's offshore bank account tomorrow morning." Tomorrow. David was planning to disappear forever in less than 24 hours. Maya asked one more question. "Can you tell me the name of the buyer's company again?" The agent gave her the name of a private investing group. Maya quickly searched the company name on her computer. She found the public business records in just a few short minutes. The company director was a woman named Elena Vance. Maya searched the name on social media. She found a picture of a beautiful blonde woman. In the photo, Elena was wearing the exact same expensive perfume brand that Maya had smelled on David's jacket 2 nights ago. The evil puzzle was finally complete. David and his mistress, Elena, had planned this for months. Elena's fake company was buying the house with dirty money to make it look legal. David would take the clean cash from the sale and run away with her to another country. They were going to leave Maya completely homeless and poor. She stared at the computer screen, feeling a dark anger replacing her deep sadness. She looked down at Bailey. The brave dog rested his golden head on her knee, offering silent, strong support. He had warned her in time. Maya wiped the tears from her face. She was not going to be a weak, broken victim. She picked up her phone and quickly called her personal bank manager. She had to act immediately to freeze their shared savings. The invisible war had started, and Maya was finally ready to fight back. Maya decided to play a very dangerous game. She did not scream or cry. Instead, she cooked David's favorite meal. She set the dining table with beautiful white candles and expensive red wine. She wore a pretty dress and waited for the liar to come home. David walked through the front door holding a bouquet of red roses. He smiled his perfect smile and kissed Maya's cheek. He acted like a wonderful, loving husband. But something was very different tonight. Bailey did not run forward to block David like before. The brave dog did something completely new. Bailey put his tail between his legs and walked away quickly. He hid in the dark space under the heavy dining table. His large golden body was shaking violently. He did not growl at David today. The dog looked absolutely terrified. Maya felt a cold chill run down her back. Bailey was not reacting to the smell of simple lies or nervousness anymore. The dog was smelling a much darker, colder chemical. He was smelling pure, deadly evil. He was reacting to the scent of a predator ready to strike. David sat down at the table, looking happily at the delicious food. "This looks amazing, honey," he said smoothly. He picked up the dark glass bottle of expensive red wine. He carefully poured the dark liquid into Maya's elegant wine glass first. He pushed the glass toward her across the white tablecloth. "Drink with me, my beautiful wife," he said softly. "To our wonderful future together." Maya forced herself to smile back, hiding her deep anger. She slowly reached her hand forward to take the delicate glass. She just wanted to play along to record his voice later. But before her fingers could touch the cold glass, a golden flash exploded from under the table. Bailey jumped high into the air with a loud, wild bark. His heavy front paws hit the edge of the wooden table with incredible force. Plates, candles, and hot food went flying everywhere. The heavy dog crashed directly into Maya's wine glass on purpose. The glass fell to the hard floor and shattered into 100 sharp pieces. The dark red wine spilled everywhere, splashing onto Maya's shoes. It looked exactly like fresh blood on the clean kitchen floor. David stood up, his face twisted in pure, violent rage. Bailey stood over the broken glass, breathing heavily. He looked at David with fierce, angry eyes. The dog had broken the rules, but he did not care. He had to stop Maya from drinking that dark liquid at any cost, even if it meant breaking all the training rules he had ever learned. David lost completely his fake smile. His face turned dark red with sudden, extreme anger. "You stupid, crazy animal," he screamed at the top of his lungs. He kicked Bailey hard in the chest. The dog cried out in terrible pain and fell to the floor. Maya was terrified. "Stop it, David. He just made a mistake," she cried out. She quickly dropped to her knees on the wet floor to protect her dog. She started to gather the sharp pieces of broken glass with her shaking hands. David turned around and walked quickly toward the kitchen sink. "I will go get a towel to clean this mess," he said in a cold, angry voice. Maya stayed on the floor, holding a large piece of the broken wine glass. She held the curved glass up to the light. Her heart stopped completely. At the very bottom of the broken glass, there was a thick layer of white powder. It had not dissolved fully into the red wine. David was not just stealing her money. He had put a heavy dose of dangerous sedatives into her drink. The evil plan became clear in her mind. He wanted to drug her until she was completely unconscious. Then, he would use her sleeping fingerprint to unlock her phone and approve the bank transfer tonight. He was willing to risk her life for money. He was a monster. Suddenly, she heard a soft, wet sound next to her. Bailey was licking the spilled red wine from the floor. The thirsty, stressed dog had tasted the deadly liquid. "No, Bailey. Stop," Maya screamed in panic. She tried to push him away from the red puddle, but it was already too late. Only a few seconds passed before the terrible reaction started. Bailey's eyes went completely wide. The brave dog started to cough violently. White foam appeared at the corners of his mouth. His strong legs began to shake wildly. He tried to stand up, but his muscles failed completely. Bailey vomited violently onto the floor and then collapsed heavily. He lay on his side, breathing very fast and shallow. The powerful drugs were shutting down his nervous system. The chemical reaction proved the terrifying truth. The wine was laced with a deadly poison. Her husband was actually trying to kill her. Maya heard David's heavy footsteps coming back from the kitchen sink. He was holding a wet towel. He did not look worried about the dying dog at all. He looked down at Maya with cold, empty eyes. She had nowhere to run, and the terrifying reality of her husband's betrayal was now completely undeniable. Maya looked up at her husband's cold face. There was no love left in his dark eyes, only cruel calculation. She knew if she stayed in this room, she would not survive the night. She had to escape immediately. "I need to get his medicine from the car," Maya lied. Her voice shook with pure terror. She picked up Bailey's heavy, unconscious body in her arms. She ignored David and ran straight toward the front door of the house. David did not chase her. He just stood in the kitchen, smiling a very dark, confident smile. Maya reached the front door and punched her security code into the smart lock. The lock beeped loudly and flashed a bright red light. Error. She typed the numbers again, her fingers trembling. Red light again. David had secretly changed the master passcode. She pulled out her phone to call the police, but there was zero signal. He had disconnected the internet router and used a cellular jammer. She was completely trapped inside her own home with a killer. Maya looked at the locked back door and the strong, heavy windows. There was no easy way out. Then, she felt a weak push against her chest. Bailey opened his blurry eyes just a little bit. The poison was destroying his body, but his protective instinct was stronger than death. He weakly pushed his cold nose toward the dark hallway that led to the basement stairs. Maya understood instantly. She carried the heavy dog down the wooden stairs into the cold, dark basement. She hid quietly in the corner, trying to slow her breathing. Above her, she heard David's slow, heavy footsteps walking toward the basement door. "Maya," David called out. His voice echoed down the stairs, sounding like a horror movie monster. "There is nowhere to hide, my love. Just come upstairs." He opened the basement door. Light flooded the top of the stairs. Bailey used his last bit of strength to stand up on his shaky legs. He pushed Maya gently toward the small, dirty ventilation window near the ceiling. It was the only window in the house that David always forgot to lock. Maya climbed onto an old wooden box and pushed the glass window open. It was a very tight space. Bailey stood under her, using his strong back to help push her feet upward. She squeezed through the narrow window into the cold night air, just as David walked down the stairs. She fell onto the wet grass outside, gasping for fresh air. She quickly reached back through the small window and pulled Bailey's limp body out with all her strength. She held her dying dog tightly and ran blindly into the dark woods. Maya ran through the dark trees until she reached the main road. A passing truck driver saw her covered in dirt and stopped to help. He quickly drove Maya and the sick dog straight to the nearest police station. Inside the bright police station, Maya finally felt safe. She placed the broken piece of glass with the white powder on the officer's desk. Then, she pulled out the torn legal contract that Bailey had stolen from the briefcase. She told the police everything about the forged signature, the fake real estate company, and the poisoned wine. While a police car rushed Bailey to the emergency animal hospital, a team of armed officers drove silently toward Maya's house. Back at the house, David was furious. He had searched the dark basement, but Maya was completely gone. He realized she had escaped through the small window. He began to panic. His perfect, evil plan was falling apart completely. He ran up to his office and grabbed his laptop. He had to transfer the money to his offshore account right now, before Maya could stop him. He logged into their shared bank account with shaking fingers. He typed in the transfer amount. He pressed the confirmation button, expecting to see $1 million move. Instead, a large red error message appeared on the screen. The total balance of the account was exactly $0. David stared at the screen, completely frozen in shock. Earlier that afternoon, Maya had called her bank manager. She had legally frozen the shared account and moved all the funds into a secure trust. David was absolutely broke. He had nothing. He screamed loudly and threw the expensive laptop against the wall. Suddenly, he heard the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. He looked out the window and saw Elena's shiny sports car. His mistress had come to collect him and the stolen money. David ran outside to meet her, feeling completely desperate. "Elena, we have to run," David shouted. But before Elena could answer, bright red and blue lights suddenly flashed from the dark street. 4 police cars surrounded them completely. Armed officers stepped out, pointing their bright flashlights at David's face. Elena panicked instantly. She looked at the police and then at David. Without a second of hesitation, she raised her hands in the air. "I will tell you everything," Elena cried loudly. "He forced me to do it." I have all his threatening messages. The traitor was betrayed. David fell to his knees on the cold driveway. He looked at his beautiful mistress, realizing she cared only about herself. The heavy metal handcuffs clicked tightly around his wrists. His perfectly planned life of luxury was completely destroyed forever. The criminal trial happened 3 months later. David wore an orange prison uniform. His expensive lawyer tried to tell a very good lie to the judge. He claimed the broken glass was just a terrible accident and that Maya was crazy. The lawyer argued that there was no real proof of attempted murder. The dog was simply sick and broke the table, the lawyer stated confidently. My client is innocent. He never put any poison in his wife's glass. But the prosecutor smiled and called a new witness. The emergency veterinarian walked into the quiet courtroom holding a white medical file. He placed the official blood test results on the wooden desk. The room went completely silent. The dog, Bailey, did not have a simple stomach illness, the vet explained clearly. His blood contained a massive, deadly dose of a highly illegal sedative. It was enough chemical poison to easily stop a human heart in minutes. Bailey had become the ultimate silent witness. Because the brave dog had licked the spilled wine, his blood held the exact chemical proof of David's dark crime. The judge hit his wooden hammer. David was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. One beautiful spring year later, Maya lived in a small, sunny house near the beach. She sat on the porch, drinking warm tea. Bailey lay happily in the green grass next to her. The dog had survived the poison and fully recovered. Suddenly, a white van parked in front of the house. A friendly plumber carrying a heavy toolbox walked toward the front gate. Maya had called him to fix a broken water pipe in the kitchen. She stood up to greet him. Bailey stood up slowly. He walked to the wooden fence and sniffed the air carefully. He took a long, deep breath, analyzing the man's scent. Maya watched her dog nervously, remembering the terrible night that changed her life forever. The plumber stopped at the gate, looking slightly afraid of the large dog. But Bailey did not plant his feet. He did not growl or show his sharp teeth. Instead, he let out a happy bark and wagged his golden tail enthusiastically. The air was clean. There was no smell of adrenaline, cortisol, or dark secrets. The scent of dangerous lies was permanently gone from their lives. Maya smiled brightly and opened the gate, knowing her faithful guardian would always keep her safe. She patted Bailey's soft, golden head with deep love and gratitude. The dog leaned heavily against her legs, providing a warm, comforting pressure. They walked back into their peaceful, happy home together. The invisible wall of protection was finally resting in the warm sunlight.